Okay, right on. My name is Keahi Bustamente, and originally lived on Molokai when I was younger, and then moved to Maui, where my family is originally from, and spent a little bit of time out in the States, and then returned to Maui to do the work that I do today. Um, so I work for the Hawaii Invertebrate program. I'm a field technician with them. It's a program under DOFA, Department of Forestry and Wildlife, and I manage the islands of Maui Nui. I split up my time between these islands as best I can, but most of my time, because I live on Maui, I spend on this island. Um, these are some of my duties. The with most of my work being in this third one, point survey research and managing rare invertebrate populations. So I'm working with insects, like the Hawaiian damselfly, the pinau or pina pinau. This one, Megalagrin xanthomelis, is one of our endangered ones. So part of my job is going out and searching for remaining populations of this species, and also surveying for other rare ones here in the islands. I also work with Hawaiian yellowface bee, Hylaeus. There's about 60 plus species across Hawaii, and the rarest ones are the ones that are were found along the coast. So a lot of my time is spent walking miles of coastline, searching for these rare bees. The majority of my time I spend working with Hawaiian land snails under the Snail Extinction Prevention Program. Um, and so I'm out searching um, forest areas, mostly in the mountain, for any remaining Hawaiian land snails, of which we have probably around 1,000 different Hawaiian species, endemic species only found here in Hawaii. And we believe that 50 to 90% are now extinct. Many of them we haven't seen, or no one has seen them in decades. So my job is to relocate any survivors and to bring them into captive rearing, to protect uh, the snails out in the wild from predation from rats and other things that I'll get to in a minute. So like I said, my job is to main part of my job is to go out and to survey for these rare animals um, that are mostly in Hawaiian forests. Um, so part of the job is going into Bishop Museum or other museums to get location information of where these animals occurred. So this is at Bishop Museum, and we're looking at Hylaeus specimens from the 1800s to get location information. Um, these are snails in the collection at Bishop Museum. Um, I I go and look for old maps, and then once we get that information, we get out there and try to find them. So this is in the helicopter headed out to Windward, Molokai, um, landing in really remote areas where I'll have to spend a day to a week at a time. This is on East Maui in the Hana region. I could spend a night in one of those on a deck like you just saw, or it could just be in a one-man tent somewhere, anywhere. be on the side of a cliff in a hammock under a tarp. Once we get out there, we hike and search for these species, hike some more, a lot of getting wet, a lot of being or learning to be comfortable, being comfortable, uncomfortable, a lot of wet days, but a lot of beautiful days too. This is near Haleakala Peak on Haleakala. We work in a lot of steep, really steep terrain where a lot of the species are still hanging on because these are the places that are hard to get to for the ungulates or the predators that are looking for them. Sometimes we need to rappel to get to these sites. This is legend Steve Perlman on Kauai. This is going to, this is on the windward cliffs of Molokai, working with the Lula or the Wa'ala Bergamia. Here's some of the snails that we search for. This is Nucombia Kumingai, one of the endangered snails here on Maui. This is Archilina marmorata from the Kaupo area. Archilina perdix from West Maui. This is one of the damselflies, the Megalagrian xanthomelis. And I also get to hunt for rare plants since prior to this job I'm in now, I used to work for the Plant Extinction Prevention Program, which is where I got the majority of my on-the-job training, hunting for rare plant species. So when I'm also, while I'm looking for snails and insects, I'm also got an eye out for rare plants. This is an Alani from Waihee Valley, only grows there. Named after one of our great botanists here on Maui, Hank Oppenheimer. Here's Hank. He's working with Cyanea kauaulaensis in Waikapu Valley. So once we find these things, we got to take a lot of data, GPS data, population information, how many plants are out there, what kind of threats are out there. Write this all down in notes. Then for the snails, I mentioned they go into the captive rearing program. So here I'm collecting some of these snails. They got sent over to Oahu to go into a breeding program that's climate controlled and with a goal of making more that we can get back out on the landscape as soon as possible. So here's some of these snails. These are Oahu snails, Acatenellas in the Oahu lab. So some of these, jobs, like people in the lab, these are additional positions that you could potentially have. It's not just people in the field. There's also some people who just work in the lab. These people are working with breeding the damselflies in the lab, and each one of those little containers has a little baby damselfly in it. So they're separating them out and feeding them. Also, part of my job is protecting the animals, like I said, in the wild from threats, predators. So this is a rat trap that I use to control rats that dates snails. So I'll set up rat trap grids like this one to combat this guy. This is the Euglandina, the rosy wolf snail. It was brought in as a biocontrol that went bad. And eventually these snails made their way into the mountains and has quickly devastated our native species, and it's happened on other Pacific islands as well. So to protect our snails from particularly that species, we have to construct these walled fences that protect the snails from anything that could get in, like the rats or those carnivorous snails. So part of my job could be constructing these or um, working on contracting people to construct them, maintaining these fences. We also do some restoration work. It could be at a site like this at Ho'okipa on North Shore Maui, where we're working within a seabird colony, but doing some restoration work to uh, increase the host plants for the Hylaeus bees that we hope to translocate here once this place is able to sustain them. And you know, why do I do this, and what do I love about this is my son Kwaikea. I do this for him, for you guys, for the lahui, the the future of our islands. You see around him, he has a big lei. It's the Corellia snail that was on Kauai that we think is extinct now. No one's seen it for a long time, but an incredible snail, large snail that we use to make lei. And you know, no one may ever see this snail alive again. So my job now is to prevent this from happening to any of the snails that I come across, or any of the insects or plants that I come across. And this really, really keeps me going from day to day, and keeps me in check too. Um, my advice for you, if you're interested in a job doing some of the things that we're gonna mention to you today, um, the best things you can do that helped me was to just get out there and hike and hike and hike and learn for myself, learn Hawaiian plants, um, grow Hawaiian plants, and volunteer to plant Hawaiian plants. Because without Hawaiian plants, we will have a hard time having any of these snails or insects or water or these fantastic things that we have only in Hawaii. One of the questions was, do I take any interns? I unfortunately don't really take interns, and when I do take interns, I usually take ones that have been through, who have some prior knowledge. So if you hope to intern with me at some point, get studying and talk to me in a couple of years. Thanks for your time, and thanks for attending the program.